It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Thursday, October 9th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today, cooler than it has been, but it is fall. High 62. Tonight, and overnight, clear, low 48. And then Friday, sunshine, high 67. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 54 clear in Oyster Bay out on Long Island, 52 and clear in Little Ferry over in New Jersey, and it's 53 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
Is peace really breaking out in the Middle East? There's always next year for the Yankees. Some very heated exchanges at the New Jersey gubernatorial debate. Mayor Adams coming to the rescue of Christopher Columbus statues, and a wild scene at a wild butterfly garden on Long Island. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. It's not Yankees year. Blue Jays clinching a spot in the American League Championship Series after beating the Yankees 5-2. Game 4 of the American League Division Series last night up in the Bronx. Yankee pitcher Cam Schlittler says tried to get on, tried to win the game, but just didn't happen.
Listen, so again, the end goal is the same as again, you just got to try and fuel the fire and take it into your off-season training and again, get ready for spring training and take it into next season. Yeah,
I don't really know what we expect them to say, but Yankee outfielder Aaron Judge says this year feels similar to last season.
Every year is different, just based on how it goes, but I think the feeling's still the same of you're going to win, so it's not what you want.
Yeah. Okay. Yankee infielder. One more? Yeah, sure. Jazz Chisholm Jr. says he's not worried about the offseason.
I'm not really worried. I feel like we built a pretty good family in here, and I feel like a lot of guys will want to come back. Just keep on trying to push for that World Series.
That'll be the question, the offseason. Who comes back? Toronto will face the Seattle Mariners or the Detroit Tigers in the American League Championship Series. That'll begin on Sunday. Out of the Middle East, President Trump confirming Israel and Hamas have signed off on the first phase of his peace plan. The initial indication peace talks were progressing came yesterday when Secretary of State Marco Rubio interrupted the president during a meeting and handed him a note.
Yeah, I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East, and they're going to need me pretty quickly.
Yeah, and so what they wanted him to do was to approve a Truth Social post, and the president did, and it said in that Truth Social post, all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps towards what he calls a strong, durable, and everlasting peace.
I spoke to Bibi Netanyahu just a little while ago. He called. He said, I can't believe it. He said, everybody's liking me now. Meaning him. He said, I said, more importantly, they're loving Israel again.
That was the president on Fox News last night. Phase 1 of this agreement includes the release of Israeli hostages held by Hamas in exchange for Palestinian prisoners currently detained by Israel. The president said to be considering now a trip to Egypt to take part in the next stage of negotiations.
The tariffs have brought peace to the world. I'm telling you, they brought peace to the world. And without the tariffs, I mean, far more than even the money that we're taking in, which is trillions of dollars, essentially trillions of dollars. Far much more importantly, it gives you a tremendous road to peace.
And there was this very nice moment last night when the president called the hostage families, the ones who've been advocating, of course, on the part of their loved ones for 2 years now, to tell them that their loved ones are going to come home. So they put them on speakerphone, the president, and then you could see these hostage families getting the news.
All right, hold on. President Trump, you have the best crowd in the world. What do you guys have to say to President Trump?
Thank you!
Thank you.
You did it!
Wow.
You did it! Thank you!
This is amazing. Mr. President, we believe in you. We know you've done so much for us. over the past, since you became a president, even before that. And we trust you fulfill the mission until every hostage, every 48 of the hostages are home. Thank you so much. Blessed be the peacemakers.
God bless you, Mr. President. God bless America.
Thank you very much. You just take care of yourselves. The hostages will come back. They're all coming back on Monday.
Yeah, so a nice moment there as the president told the hostage families himself that their loved ones would be released come Monday. Of course, all keeping our fingers crossed that carries through. And then we'll, of course, find out if the president's going to head over to Egypt for the second phase of these negotiations. 505, rather. Let's bring it back home out to New Jersey. It was the final gubernatorial debate between Democrat Mikey Sherrill, Republican Jack Ciattarelli. They clashed during this final debate on a number of issues. There was this moment where they both said, shame on you, shame on you.
First of all, shame on you. Mm-hmm. Second of all,
shame on you, sir.
Shame on you. I got to walk at my college graduation.
And I'm so glad.
Yeah, so one of the sharpest exchanges came after Mikey Sherrill said that Jack Ciattarelli had made millions by working with some of the worst offenders when it came to opioids. And that's when he threw back that shame on you. At least I got to walk in my graduation. Of course, that story you haven't been following along is that Mikey Sherrill was unable to walk in her Naval Academy graduation amid a widespread cheating scandal that year. Now, she wasn't accused of cheating, but she was accused of protecting those who had cheated.
I didn't turn in some of my classmates, so I didn't walk at graduation because I come from an incredibly accountable place. But I went on to graduate. But here's what I think really demands an answer is why my opponent still won't take accountability for the release of those records.
I think she was punished for something else. And so I think she needs to come clean. I think the people in New Jersey deserve an answer as to why she was punished at the Naval Academy.
WABC News Time 508 back out to that debate between Jack Ciattarelli and Mikey Sherrill at Rutgers University last night. The pair went on the attack, but they also talked about stuff that matters to voters.
My opponent has voted against over $1 billion in property tax relief for people. He's voted to raise taxes at every level of government in which he's served.
And the reason why the school tax is so high in New Jersey is because of the way we distribute state aid to our schools. We need a new school funding formula.
They graded Governor Murphy on his 8 years in Trenton.
I'd give him a B. There's things like paying for the pensions, the 9 increases in our credit rating that I like. But overall, I think there's ways Trenton could do a lot better.
It's an F. This has been the worst governorship of our lifetime. And the reason why a number of Democrats all around the state have endorsed my candidacy.
Yeah, there were some lighter moments at the end when they asked the candidates what they liked about each other. I always think it's kind of a bizarre question. And Jack Ciattarelli saluted Mikey Sherrill's service in the Navy, and Mikey Sherrill saluted Jack Ciattarelli's son's service in the military. And then they were asked about pump your own gas, right? That's always been a big story. I think New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken, is now the last state, or maybe there's one other state, Oregon or Washington, where you can't pump your own gas. They're service attendants. So they were asked, would either of you get rid of that? Would you make it so they're self-serve? And it was the only thing they agreed on the entire night.
I really enjoy, I've come into New Jersey on fumes from Delaware, especially when my kids were little and in the rain. So I think a lot of people really love our state laws as they are.
Mr. Ciattarelli.
We have too many dubious distinctions, Tam, and I'll fix great many of those. But one of our special differences here in New Jersey, we don't have to pump our own gas. Jersey girls don't like to pump their own gas. We'll continue to have full service.
Okay, so what do the voters think, right? The election's it's less than a month away.
What he says and what, his plan doesn't really include a lot of us.
I think he has a better shot at addressing the problems that most of us care about.
They will say anything to get in power.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then what are on people's minds? What's their biggest concerns ahead of the November election?
immigration. I mean, we can't help everybody.
Affordable housing, it's just everywhere.
Lower taxes?
Pretty much taxes and being able to retire there without going broke.
High rent, high utilities, everything's everything's high.
The high property tax that we pay.
Yeah, I can tell you for a good portion of my adult life, it's been 15, 20 years, I've lived in New Jersey, and each governor's promised to lower my property taxes, lower school taxes, make things more affordable. None of them have been able to do it, so maybe one of these will be able to, whoever wins in November. And then here in the city, there's less than a month ago until the mayoral election. All three candidates yesterday showing up at the Cranes Business Forum breakfast. Former Governor Cuomo making headlines at this breakfast, calling for Rikers Island to be rebuilt instead of just outright closed.
We should rebuild new state-of-the-art jails on Rikers Island, provide free bus service.
His opponents blasting that statement. Republican Curtis Lewa says Cuomo is flip-flopping out of desperation, noting how Cuomo once called for the immediate closure of the prison. That was back in 2018. Meanwhile, Zohran Mamdani has said he would close Rikers as early as possible if elected. Zohran Mamdani trying to convince the business community that he won't wreak havoc on the business community. Here's what he had to say to them yesterday.
Oftentimes when I speak about an affordability agenda, it's spoken of as if it is only a reflection of the needs of working class New Yorkers. Yet, however, when I have spoken to business leaders, I have also heard the impact that this lack of affordability is having on the ability to not only start a business here in the city, but to sustain that very business.
And Curtis Lewa says the city needs to reduce spending, and it should start with education.
We got to cut this budget, $118 billion budget. We have 200 schools with less than 200 students. I would conflate them. And we got to cut that bureaucracy.
And coming up after 5:30, we'll take a bus ride with Zohran Mamdani and talk about the fact that he wants to make buses free and his plan to do so. That coming up after 5:30. 5:13, police searching for a woman who they say beat her hospital roommate to death in the Bronx.
Police say it happened overnight back on September 10th. 55-year-old Cynthia Van was a patient at Lincoln Hospital. Pix 11 reports the patient who shared the room with Van repeatedly punched her in the head in the middle of the night, leaving her in critical condition. Van died from her injuries on September 27th. Pix 11 says 44-year-old Raquel Houghton disappeared while the incident was being investigated. Police are still searching for the suspect.
5:13, a trial date of January 5th, been set for former FBI Director James Comey. Correspondent Alice Barr watched on as the former FBI director went before a federal judge yesterday in Virginia.
The charges stem from congressional testimony Comey gave in September 2020 when he was pressed over whether he'd lied to Congress years earlier about authorizing a leak to the press involving an investigation into Hillary Clinton.
And Comey charged with obstruction of justice, making false statements. In a video posted after his indictment, Comey said that he's innocent, and he said, let's have a trial. Barr reports that during a congressional hearing yesterday, Attorney General Pam Bondi refused to talk about any discussions she might have had with the president about the Comey case.
President Trump has long seen Comey as a political enemy, and just days before the charges were announced, the president posted on social media calling on Attorney General Pam Bondi to charge Comey and other political opponents. The statute of limitations for the charges was set to run out the week after they were announced, and the week before, the top prosecutor tasked with leading the Comey investigation quit rather than seek an indictment.
And then the trial date we've been getting is January 5th. Coming up in a moment, there's been a man arrested for those deadly, incredibly destructive Palisades fires in California. We'll give you the latest on that. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, where no doubt we find a very dejected Justin Ella.
That's all right, Noam Layden. Kind of saw this one coming, no?
You did.
Yeah. Just didn't have, the team didn't have the britches this season. It's unfortunate, really, because I did think overall it was a better team than the Yankees had last year that went to the World Series. But, alas, they don't even get to the ALCS this year. Ousted, of course, the Yankees, that is. Last night in Game 4 of the ALDS at Yankee Stadium, a 5-2 loss to the Toronto Blue Jays, extending their championship drought to a 16th season. It's the third longest in franchise history. Standing in the Yankees' way to the championship series was the team that stood in their way of the AL East title, of course. Toronto went 8-5 against the Yanks during the regular season to claim the tiebreaker that proved to be the difference in getting a bye through the wild card round when the teams finished with identical AL best 94 and 68 records. The rookie Cam Schlittler, coming off a historic 8-inning performance in the wild card series, did not resemble the dominant force that held the Boston Red Sox scoreless in an elimination game last week, but he pitched well enough to give New York a chance to stave off elimination. However, the Yankees fumbled the opportunity, managing just 2 runs on 6 hits. They stranded 2 runners on base in the 6th and 7th innings and left the bases loaded in the 8th. Blue Jays collected 12 more hits to finish with 50 in the series and outscored New York 34-19 to reach the ALCS for the first time since 2016. So a lot to address here in the offseason for the Yankees. I think it's long overdue for them to get over this hump and hoist that World Series trophy once again in the coming years. But again, I mean, 16 straight years without a championship. If you're a Yankees fan, that is a very long time. I mean, I hate to sound pompous here, but 16 years, for a Yankees fan.
Too many years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
2009.
Just a bit outside.
Oh, they taking all these. Great pitch. Final from Detroit as well, Noam Laden. Tigers over the Mariners 9-3 in that ALDS Game 4 series, now knotted at 2 games apiece. Game 5 is tomorrow afternoon in Seattle. And out in Chicago, the Brewers beat the Cubs, or I should say the Cubs beat the Brewers 4-3 in that NLDS Game 3. Milwaukee still leads the series 2-1. Game 4 is tonight, 9:08 p.m. from Wrigley Field. And to the NHL, 7 p.m. tonight, the Rangers are at Buffalo against the Sabres. The Islanders will open up their regular season out in Pittsburgh against the Penguins, and the Devils will open their regular season as well tonight, 7:30 p.m. tonight out in Carolina against the Hurricanes. And of course, Week 6 in the NFL gets underway tonight. A Thursday Night Football, 8:15 p.m. kickoff between your 4-1 Eagles and your 1-4 Giants at MetLife.
Wait, did the Phillies play last night?
Yeah, the Phillies did play. Oh, they beat up on the Dodgers.
Okay.
They blew out the Dodgers last night. So that series is 2-1 now as well. Apologies, missed that. And
it's all right. You're just so devastated by the Yankees' loss. That
I know. Also, the Phillies-Dodgers game was at like 9:08.
It was a late game.
I totally forgot that game even existed.
Yeah. So they're still in it. They won in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Blew them out. I think it was like 8-2. So, and then you get football tonight, normally in Week 6 already in the NFL. Eagles-Giants at MetLife. Eagles are 7.5-point road favorites in that one. That's your sports. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 520. A 29-year-old man now behind bars in connection with the deadly and destructive Palisades fire in California.
Jonathan Rinderknecht, who was arrested in Florida on Tuesday, is accused of intentionally starting the Lockman fire shortly after midnight on New Year's Day. The fire was put out, but continued to smolder underground. Strong Santa Ana winds caused it to flare back up on January 7th, becoming the Palisades Fire, one of the most destructive fires in California history that left 12 people dead. U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley says Rinderknecht was initially interviewed by authorities on January 24th. He allegedly lied to them about where he was on the night the Lockman fire started. Rinderknecht is facing arson charges involving destruction of property. I'm Mark Mayfield.
From California out to Chicago, National Guard troops from Texas now camped out at an Army Reserve Training Center in Illinois. Correspondent Peter Alexander reports they're expected to be deployed on the streets of Chicago.
Part of a mobilization ordered by President Trump, the state's governor has denounced as an unconstitutional invasion.
If you look at Chicago, Chicago's a great city where there's a lot of crime. And if the governor can't do the job, we'll do the job.
Chicago's Democratic Mayor Brandon Johnson condemned what he called the president's war on his city.
Meanwhile, the Memphis police chief says the National Guard could be deployed in that city on Friday.
With the courts so far blocking the president's efforts to deploy troops to Democratic-led cities, President Trump is now threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act to send those troops in to crack down on unrest without states' approval.
While we're talking about President Trump, yesterday he was talking about the fact that he wants to dismantle Antifa.
They've used armed gangs to assault local police in cities nationwide, and they've attacked journalists reporting on their crimes.
Self-described anti-fascist group has been accused by the Justice Department of being behind violent protests in U.S. cities. The president hosting a roundtable yesterday. It was composed of cabinet members and independent journalists who have faced Antifa violence. The president recently signed an executive order designating Antifa as a domestic terror organization.
In July, approximately a dozen Antifa-aligned militants stormed the ICE facility in Texas and then lured officers out of the building before firing dozens of rounds at police. At least 3 of these courageous journalists have personally been victims of Antifa attacks.
From the White House, let's head over to Congress, where it's still shut down. Partial government shutdown. What are we at? Day 9? Is it 9? I think that's right. Things getting heated as this partial government shutdown moves past the 1-week mark. Reporters watching on as Republican Congressman Mike Lawler and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries faced off in a hallway in Capitol Hill.
Because you don't want to hear what I have to say. Oh, I'm listening. So why don't you just keep your mouth shut?
Okay. On Wednesday, the Senate rejected 2 competing measures for the 6th time that were aimed at bringing the shutdown to an end. That's what brought on this fight between Republican Congressman Mike Lawler and Hakeem Jeffries from here in New York City.
For years, you always lectured about how we need to keep the government open.
You're making a show of this to make it.
Now, Democrats' plan included health care reforms, while the GOP plan would keep the government funding at the same levels until a larger bill could be worked out. The shutdown has so far lasted over a week, the longest on record. You'll remember back that was 2018 during President Trump's first term. It lasted 34 days. 5:24. Out to Colorado. The family of Boulder, Colorado attack suspect Muhammad Soliman. They're asking a federal court to release them from ICE custody after being held for more than 4 months now. Family immigration attorney Eric Lee says they've been unjustly detained, should be freed to recover from the trauma and attend court hearings.
There is no authority to detain this family any longer now that the immigration judge has ordered that they pose no threat to the public and that they pose no danger of a flight risk from going to future immigration court hearings.
Soliman's wife, Hayam El Gamal, their 5 children, all U.S. asylum seekers from Egypt, have no connection to the attack. They were granted bond back in September, but the Department of Homeland Security blocked their release. Lee says the family had housing lined up to continue going to court proceedings, have fully cooperated with authorities, and should not be punished for Soliman's actions. Soliman accused of throwing firebombs at peaceful demonstrators in June, killing 1 person and injuring dozens of others. Down in Washington at the Supreme Court, they were hearing a high-profile case over conversion therapy yesterday. It's a challenge to a Colorado law that bans therapy aimed at changing a minor's sexual orientation. James Campbell, he's an attorney with the Christian legal organization Alliance Defending Freedom, representing the counselor at the center of this case.
Colorado forbids counselors like Kaylee Childs from helping minors pursue state disfavored goals on issues of gender and sexuality. This law prophylactically bans voluntary conversations, censoring widely held views on debated moral, religious, and scientific questions.
Nearly half of all U.S. states ban conversion therapy, and the High Court's eventual ruling could have a sweeping impact on some of those decisions in states across the country. 5:26. Last of the New Orleans prison escapees has been captured. Did you even remember that there was still one out there? But there was. Atlanta Deputy Chief Kelly Collier gives the details on this latest arrest.
Southeast Fugitive Task Force, in conjunction with the Atlanta Police Department and the Clayton County Police Department, were able to take Derek Groves, 28 years old, into custody here on Honeysuckle Lane.
9 out of the 10 inmates who escaped the jail back in May had been recaptured, but the convicted killer Groves had managed to elude police. He was captured in Atlanta. The inmates escaped through a hole behind a toilet, leading to that intense manhunt and investigations into jail security.
Mr. Groves was wanted for escape from the Orleans Parish Jail in May of this year. He was convicted earlier in the state of Louisiana for 2 counts of murder.
I bet at this point he probably thought, geez, I'm free. No, they're not going to catch up with me. But of course, they continued to search for him, and they found him.
We deployed a number of canisters of gas to help move him throughout the house, which he moved to the basement of the house.
In early October 2025, task force personnel learned that Derek Groves
was likely in the Atlanta, Georgia area.
Yeah, and then they were able to nail down where he was. Now he's back behind bars.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Thursday, October 9th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today, cooler though. The high just 62. Tonight and overnight clear, low 48. And then Friday, sunshine, high 67 if you are walking out the door with us right now. So happy you are. 54 clear, Oyster Bay out on Long Island. 52 and clear in Little Ferry over in New Jersey. And it's 53 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:38. My alarm goes off every morning at 2:10 a.m. So I always have to negotiate with myself if I want to watch a sporting event the night before. You probably go through this too if you're up listening to me at this hour. So I said to myself, after watching a couple innings of the Yankees last night, and I was like, I don't think it's going to happen for them. And apparently I made the right decision because I went to bed and woke up to see that the Blue Jays have now clinched a spot in the American League Championship Series after beating the Yankees 5-2, Game 4 up in the Bronx. Some sad Yankee fans after it was all over.
It's really a very upsetting loss. We had an amazing season. We had the odds stacked against us, and we couldn't pull it together, and that's not the Yankees' luck, and it's not the Yankees' way.
Just couldn't get the hitting going. I thought they would take the momentum into today, and, it didn't happen. The kid pitched a great game, but we just couldn't get the big hits. We had opportunity right there at Wells with the bases loaded, and unfortunately just could not capitalize.
Yep, always next year, I guess. Out on the campaign trail, all three candidates for mayor attending this forum with business leaders, the Crane's business breakfast. Andrew Cuomo unveiled his plan to keep Rikers Island open.
We should rebuild new state-of-the-art jails on Rikers Island, provide free bus service, and use those existing sites for housing and commercial development.
So after he made that announcement, Curtis Sliwa, Zohran Mamdani went on the attack for reversing his stance on that notorious jail complex.
In 2019, he has a press conference. We must close Rikers Island. 2 weeks ago, he once again reiterated it should have been closed a long time ago.
A lot of members of the business community at this Crane's business breakfast are worried about Zohran Mamdani being a democratic socialist. He tried to relate to them yesterday that he's pro-business.
So what I want my policies to do is not only to make it easier for working people to afford this city, but also to ensure that businesses are able to attract the top talent to this city.
And then Mamdani took a bus yesterday, one of the slower buses. Actually, I think it's the slowest bus in Manhattan, the M57, the crosstown bus. And he wanted to talk about free fares and taking the bus. And then afterwards, the head of the union that represents these bus drivers says he's all in favor of the bus drivers no longer having to collect fares because he says it'll make it safer for those drivers who sometimes are assaulted when they ask for the fare.
Right now, as we can see, I'm taking part in a time-old New York City tradition, which is waiting for the bus. If you had free buses, you'd be able to board and disembark from any one of the doors on that bus. That speeds it up.
Yeah, so Mamdani claims not only will the buses be free, attract more riders, but that'll make those bus rides faster, especially on bus lines like the M57. 541 up to the Bronx, where there were a bunch of heroes yesterday. 12 people were injured, including one critically when a fire broke out in a Bronx building. This was on Ryer Avenue, East 182nd Street, right in Fordham Heights. Fire broke out in this apartment building about 4 p.m., but before firefighters could get to the scene, a deli worker and another guy, Jonathan Gomez, heard children screaming inside this building, help, 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 and they ran in through the flames and fire to get these kids out.
They were screaming like, help, 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 and one of them said, I can't breathe, I can't breathe.
Me, I did it for the simple fact was kids involved. Feel grateful. Feel like I was here. Feel like I was here for a reason.
Yeah, absolute heroes. They were able to pull a couple kids out. Others were still stuck when firefighters got to the scene, and they were able to pull some other people out of this building.
Units went up. They began searching the fire apartment. They located the first individual in the hallway, and she was brought out via the interior stairs to the sidewalk.
Okay, so the update we have of this morning, one person is in critical condition, but 9 of the others who suffered injuries, now they're all being called minor injuries.
I feel sad. I feel sad for them. I hope everybody will recover soon and everything will come back again to a normal life in this neighborhood.
That's a neighbor in the building. The Red Cross is assisting those displaced by that fire. There's going to be a big rise in unemployment benefits here in New York starting this month. The maximum weekly benefit will increase from $504 to $869 for unemployed workers, with payments issued the week of October 13th.
This makes the difference between potentially losing your home, as has been said, and not losing your home. Makes the difference from being able to pay your bills.
That's the head of the New York State Building and Construction Trades Council, Gary LaBarbera, who applauded the move for the raise in these benefits. The change comes as, of course, the federal government's in this partial shutdown. That's impacting federal employees in New York who soon could collect on this as well.
Thanks to their overhaul of our unemployment insurance system, at least here in New York, those unfortunate workers who lose their jobs, who find themselves out of work, they'll be okay.
And that'll be in that first check beginning October 13th. 5:44. Let's go out to Long Island, where police yesterday announced the arrest of 16 people accused of stealing hundreds of thousands of pounds of donated clothes. You know, at those charity bins you see all over your town? This was on Suffolk County, though. Surveillance video shows some of these guys climbing into the bins through the donation slot in order to steal the donated clothes within. The crews targeted bins that were placed by the Society of St. Vincent de Paul Church, and the charity relies on donated clothes to raise money for its operations.
We didn't know who was doing it, prior to the investigation. They uncovered all of this, and every time they filled us in on what was going on, we were just shaking our head.
The runners had specific routes and worked long hours, both overnight while everyone else was sleeping, and even sometimes brazenly during the day, including sometimes while church was in session.
Now, these guys were good. There were 70 incidents where thieves stole more than 500,000 pounds of donated clothing that were intended for the poor and homeless, and then they sold it. They made like $90,000 selling this stuff. Thankfully, they caught up with these creeps who were essentially taking clothes out of the hands of people who really needed them.
You are literally taking food and clothing and shelter from these needy people's hands, and we will not stand for it.
Yeah.
You thought you've seen everything.
No.
Could you believe people would steal from a clothing bin and that they figure out a way to make money?
Well, I guess people are desperate. So now they stopped this crew, 16 in all. Some of them were juveniles, by the way. Since those arrests, the donations have gone up 50%. All right, in a moment, we'll tell you about how Mayor Adams has a plan to protect statues of Christopher Columbus here in the city. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, 5:46, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ella.
Thank you, Noam Layden. We'll start here on the Diamond in the Bronx. The 2025 Yankees will not return to the World Series. They won't even reach the American League Championship Series, for that matter. Their season ended last night with a 5-2 loss to the Toronto Blue Jays in Game 4 of the ALDS at Yankee Stadium to extend their championship drought to a 16th season, the third longest in franchise history. Standing in the Yanks' way to the championship series was the team that stood in their way of the AL East title. Toronto went 8-5 against the Yanks during the regular season to claim the tiebreaker that proved to be the difference in getting a bye through the wildcard round when the teams finished with identical AL best 94-68 records. Rookie Cam Schlittler, coming off a historic 8-inning performance in the wildcard series, did not resemble the dominant force that held the Red Sox scoreless in an elimination game last week, but he pitched well enough to give New York a chance to stave off elimination. However, the Yankees fumbled that opportunity, managing just the 2 runs on 6 hits. They stranded 2 runners on base in the 6th and 7th innings and left the bases loaded in the 8th. The Blue Jays collected 12 more hits to finish with 50 in the series and outscored New York 34-19 to reach reach the ALCS for the first time since 2016. Out in Detroit, the Tigers beat the Mariners 9-3 in ALDS Game 4 there. That series now knotted at 2 games apiece. Game 5 tomorrow afternoon in Seattle. The Cubs beat the Brewers 4-3 in NLDS Game 3 there. Milwaukee leading that series 2-1. Game 4 tonight, 9:08 p.m. from Wrigley. And the Phillies beat up on the Dodgers in that NLDS Game 3, so they live to see another day. That series now at 2-1, still in favor of LA. Head to the ice here. Looking ahead to action tonight, 7 p.m. Rangers are in Buffalo against the Sabres. This is Game 2 of 82 for the Rangers. As for the Islanders and the Devils, they will get their regular season campaigns underway tonight. 7 p.m. The Islanders will drop a puck in Pittsburgh against the Penguins, and at 7:30 thereafter, the Devils are in Carolina against the Hurricanes, and it is Week 6 already in the NFL. Kicking off tonight at MetLife here locally, 8:15 p.m. is your kickoff between the Eagles and the Giants. Philadelphia at 4-1, New York at 1-4, and the Eagles are 7.5-point road favorites in that one. That's your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:50. Of course, Monday is Columbus Day. Mayor Adams announcing yesterday that he wants to landmark statues of Christopher Columbus in Manhattan and Queens. You remember, it was Mayor de Blasio who said he wanted to take down some of those statues. Well, the mayor says if he gives them landmarks preservation, historic, landmark preservation, that he could then protect those statues from ever being taken down. And of course, that's getting the thumbs up from a lot of people. Here's Deputy Mayor Randy Mastro talking about this plan.
These are symbols of something important to them. And we should respect that part of the Italian community's cultural heritage.
Now, Mastro says it was an attempt by the mayor to thwart any efforts by Queens Assemblyman Zoran Mamdani, should he win, trying to accomplish what Bill de Blasio was unable to do, have the statues torn down. There's a video from a number of years ago of Zoran Mamdani standing in front of one of the Christopher Columbus statues and giving it the finger. So the mayor clearly must have seen that, and he says we need to protect those statues.
He posted a video of himself making an obscene gesture, and you're saying tear it down. As to the monument in Queens.
Marcia Kramer, she asked Zoran Mamdani yesterday if he'd set his sights on getting rid of the Christopher Columbus statues.
I can tell you that my focus is not on statues, it's on substance of making this city more affordable for New Yorkers. That's what I'm going to focus on for the first 100 days.
And Andrew Cuomo, he was praising the mayor up and down for his efforts to protect Christopher Columbus statues.
Good for him. Good for him. Good for him. I have long fought. This goes back to the de Blasio administration. Your favorite mayor. I've long fought to protect the Columbus statue and the symbolism.
Yeah, so two of them, at least, one in Manhattan and Queens, will be protected under this act that the mayor will go through with. 5:52 out to Westchester, where police there now will be required to carry EpiPens. It comes after the Westchester County Board of Legislators unanimously passed the Giovanni Cipriano Act. It's named after a 14-year-old Long Island boy who died after unknowingly eating peanuts and trail mix with his mom, commending the passage.
For those living with food allergies, and even for those who might one day face an unexpected first-time reaction, this law provides hope, safety, and a fighting chance.
So Westchester County, now the second county in New York State to require police to carry those EpiPens.
Giovanni once wrote in a book he finished, "I just want to tell all my friends, never let anyone get in your way and try hard to achieve your goal." Those words guide me every single day. And today, I think he's proud.
5:53. If you hate snow, there's some good news about the upcoming winter months.
AccuWeather has issued its long-range winter forecast for New York City. It says New York City will see less snow than usual, but more snow than it did last year. You see, last year we got almost 13 inches of snow, while the average is closer to 30 inches. And this year they predict that we'll get between 17 and 21 inches of snow. Forecasters are also saying the biggest storms are expected expected to hit at the start and at the end of winter. As for cold temperatures, expect February to get hit with frigid air. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
There is a new twist in online dating. Say it again, online dating. Well, James Flippin explains.
Double your pleasure, double your fun.
Yeah, that's right. We're double dating online. Well, a New York City-based app, Plot Twist, allows singles to team up with a friend in order to connect with other pairs of single people for low-pressure hangouts without so-called superficial swipes. The idea is to arrange group get-togethers in order to meet people without the pressure singles often feel with the average dating app. Plot Twist has been rolled out in select cities around the country, including Boston and New York.
Double your pleasure, double your fun.
James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
Doesn't that defeat the whole process of going out on a date? Like going out with a group? All right. Well, maybe I'm just not getting it. There is a new social media trend on TikTok. And one Ocean County, New Jersey school is warning parents that their kids caught doing this will get into a heap of trouble. It involves urinating on school property, shooting video of you urinating on school property, and then, of course, putting it up on TikTok. It's called the Pee Challenge.
Everybody wants to feel like they're part of their peer group, that they're accepted. And unfortunately, for some people, that means they're going to give in to peer pressure.
Yeah, that's Carl Remain talking to News 12 about this latest trend. I wouldn't call it dangerous, but Barnegat High School principal says if they catch anybody attempting to do the Pee Challenge or doing the Pee Challenge, they could be suspended from school.
If they're good at songwriting or if they're creative.
So this is this guy says, there's all these things you can do to get popular on TikTok. You don't have to pee on school property.
If they're good at songwriting or if they're creative and they have artwork. I've seen a lot of people on social media that are great at poetry and they blow up. Their accounts get pretty viral.
Okay. And we'll end with this story. A butterfly with a broken wing means almost certain death. But Janine Beddickson, she's with the Sweetbriar Nature Center out on Smithtown, Long Island. Someone brought her a monarch butterfly that had only one wing, and she said, I've heard that you can bring a wing in from another butterfly and maybe make it so they can fly again, do a wing transplant. Here she talks about it.
We kind of gave it some nectar, gave it some nice new plants, and then decided that we were going to do some butterfly wing transplants.
So she used a wing that they found in this enclosure, and then they took contact cement, a small toothpick, cornstarch, and they were able to use all those things to put the new wing on this monarch butterfly.
We started searching all around the floor and found one. It was a perfect color, size, it was just magical. When I first tried to do it, the butterfly was way too active. And I said, I can't anesthetize this thing. And then I realized if I put him in the refrigerator, he would slow down.
And it did. And so she was able to it's really wild to watch. This video has been seen by millions just over the last couple of days. And they released the monarch butterfly earlier this week.
It's really cool on so many levels because it just shows you the importance of one little insect, one small miracle, and how the world is responding.
Yeah, nice job by them.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?